What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Vince McMahon is one of the most unique individuals, not only in professional wrestling, but the entire world.
No chance, that's what you got.
No chance, that's what you got.
Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 12 strange things we've recently learned about Vince McMahon. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos.
This is such good.
Number 1. He took a number of wrestlers' finishers at a strip club. In late 1991, the WWF was dealing with a crackdown on steroid use, with Vince McMahon about to introduce a strict drug policy to the company. For whatever reason, this led to Mr. McMahon sharing a night on the town with the boys in San Antonio before the WWF's This Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view. The night on the town included a stop at a local strip club, and that's where things quickly went downhill. Vince was loaded and some of his wrestlers decided to have some fun with him. The Legion of Doom performed their finisher, the Doomsday Device, on the boss, with Animal hoisting Vince up and Hawk clotheslining him lightly. When Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart saw how weak the LOD performed their finisher, they decided to go for broke. According to one account of the tale, Neidhart pretended he was hugging Vince, and then he lifted him up. Hogan stared at Bret as if to say, "You don't have the balls to do it." Bret put down his drinks, stepped back and ran towards Vince. He gave him the heart attack clothesline finisher, and Vince's head bounced off the carpet. That was just the beginning, as wrestling legend has it, Bret put McMahon in the sharpshooter while Davey Boy Smith hit his power slam finisher on Vince. Hart would laugh a few years later when Vince underwent neck surgery, but couldn't think of any reason he needed it. It should come as no surprise that the police were summoned to the strip club. As wild as this story is, it's just the beginning of Vince's story Too Drunk in Texas. As number 2, he once peed in Ric Flair's hotel bed. At some point after the strip club chaos, Vince and his crew returned to the hotel where they were staying. In true Nature Boy fashion, Ric Flair was staying in an executive suite, so Vince and company decided to pay Flair a visit. The clerk initially refused to give up the key, but McMahon supposedly browbeated the clerk into giving it up. Flair wasn't in his room, so Vince decided to urinate on Flair's bed, as did several other wrestlers. Flair never returned to his suite that night, but he must have had a surprise when he did. Number 3, he's the original hugger. Is Vince McMahon insane? You may think so by the end of this video, but there's at least one redeeming trait he has. He loves to give out hugs. Paul Heyman revealed the WWE chairman's love for hugs during appearances on several podcasts. Heyman would recall how when he returned to the WWE in 2012, Vince approached him and exclaimed, "Give me a huggy." Yeah, could anyone imagine Vince saying that? Number 4, everything is a competition. Have you ever met someone who is super competitive? They play a game of Monopoly as if it's a billion-dollar transaction in the making, or turn beach volleyball into the Olympics. Now take that person and amplify things by 1000 and you have Vince McMahon. According to one anecdote, Vince and Linda were at their vacation home in Florida playing billiards against Stephanie and Triple H. Apparently Triple H and Steph were getting some lucky shots while Linda couldn't sink a ball to save her life. Vince was infuriated, reportedly blaming Linda for the loss. Later that night, Stephanie taunted her perturbed papa over the intercom, telling him, "You're tied to the whipping post, Dad." Triple H and Stephanie claimed Vince's thunderous shouts could be heard across the other side of the house. Number 5, and he hates to lose. Vince has been hanging and banging ever since the days of Hulkamania, when he enjoyed working out with his top musclemen. On one occasion, Vince was working out with Olympic medalist Mark Henry, whose nickname the world's strongest man was pure fact and zero hype. Thus, it might sound insane that Vince would not only try to keep up with Henry in the gym, but outdo him. While Vince couldn't match Mark in pure power, he apparently outdid him in repetitions. During an interview with Muscle and Fitness, McMahon shared his side of the story. "Mark is a strongman type of lifter, one and done or 2 reps. I was very differential to Mark in the first giant set we went through, but in the second, once he was green around the gills, that's when I started saying, 'The world's strongest man is not doing too well at the moment.' By the end of the workout, I was all over him. 'Come on, Mark, I'm 60-something years old, and you're the world's strongest man.' Psychologically, I pretty much decimated him on the last giant set. I almost felt sorry for him, but he challenged me. That was a fun day for me. During an appearance on Talk is Jericho, Henry said Vince contacted him the next day, telling him he was in great pain, a classic case of someone winning the battle, but losing the war. Number 6. The show must go on. When Owen Hart suffered a fatal accident at the WWF's Over the Edge pay-per-view, the show carried on. When the United States was attacked on September 11th, Vince ran an episode of SmackDown days later, determined to entertain Americans and encourage them to keep on with their lives. When a worldwide pandemic shut down sporting events and other public gatherings, Vince McMahon ignored the critics and chose to continue WrestleMania 36, albeit with no fans present. Vince's passion for wrestling is reflected in his 18-hour days he works and his unrelenting drive to air shows no matter what the obstacle. Number 7. He sharted to make Jerry Briscoe sick. Vince McMahon's love for bathroom humor has been repeatedly seen on WWE television, so this story shouldn't shock you. Jim Ross once recalled traveling with Vince and Gerald Briscoe in a car when Ross farted, leading to Briscoe choking and puking. This later gave Vinnie Mac the idea to fart on Briscoe and see if he's gonna make him
He's gotta puke! He's gotta puke!
Unfortunately for McMahon, his plans backfired, no pun intended, as he sharted. Vince had to go on television, and according to Jim Ross, the camera crew were ordered to shoot Vince above the waist.
He didn't give a crap.
He came out and did his promo.
Consummate professional.
He nailed it.
Just imagine the things that go on backstage that fans don't even know about. Number 8. He hates vegetarians. By now it's clear that Mr. McMahon is a persnickety person, and this story is yet another example. We know Vince is a carnivore, but he takes things further, having no use for vegans. In his book, Chris Jericho reveals the reason Daniel Bryan almost didn't get over in the WWE despite an amazing skill set. At first it seemed that Vince didn't care for Daniel Bryan because he was a vegan. Ugh, what kind of person doesn't eat steak? He once said to me in disgust. As we know, Vince eventually wised up to Bryan's abilities with him becoming one of the WWE's top stars. Number 9. Food is fuel, except when he gorges himself on cheat days. Is Vince McMahon a fitness fanatic? Yes. Does he watch what he eats? Yeah. However, like many physically fit people, he knows that it's good to indulge yourself in a cheat day at least once a week. Of course, for Vince McMahon, there's no half measures. Here's Vince's approach to cheat days. I look at eating as fuel. I'm not that conscious of the protein I eat, but I know it's a lot. I think cheat meals are very important, so I do it about once a week. When you cheat, go for it. It's important from a physiological standpoint. Oreos are my favorite cookie. I'll eat an entire box. And my philosophy is that the body can assimilate only so much in a given time. If you have 2 or 3 Oreos every day, not good. But if you eat an entire package of Oreos at one time, it's okay. It just passes through. I'll eat pasta loaded up with meat sauce, pizza, all the carbs you stay away from normally. Load them up. I will gorge. It's almost like I will force feed myself on a cheat meal. And afterwards I think, oh my god, I don't want to feel like this. Number 10. He loves snow cones and had a snow cone party. Did you know that Vince McMahon loves snow cones? This may seem counterintuitive given McMahon's passion for carefully watching his diet, but it's apparently true. Someone claiming to be a backstage worker in the WWE once shared his anecdote on Reddit. A few years ago, the company had a snow cone party. Kinda weird, I know. This was in the backlot of the television studio, not the actual large headquarter building everyone always sees. Well, apparently Vince is a huge snow cone fanatic, so much so that he had a lot of them, like 10. At one point he got up and announced in front of everyone in his Mr. McMahon, "You're fired" voice, that he loves snow cones. It was awkward and I had to fight to hold back my laughter. It was surreal. Number 11. He nearly killed a WWE writer during a street race. A former WWE writer caught Bauer as just one of many WWE writers and members of Vince McMahon's inner circle to witness his insane driving habits. On one occasion, Vince raced Bauer on an open highway, and the always competitive McMahon forced Bauer towards road construction, with Bauer's only option to brake or risk his life and limb. McMahon is indeed fast and furious. At number 12, Vince hates people who nod their heads. Despite Vince's well-earned reputation for surrounding himself with yes men, former 90210 writer turned WWE writer Larry Mollin committed a faux pas when he sat in a creative meeting with Vince and company, nodding his head as the WWE kingpin shared his thoughts. According to Mollin, Stephanie McMahon took him outside the room and told him to stop nodding because Papa Vince hated yes men. Mullen was gone within weeks. But there you have it, guys. 12 bizarre things we've recently learned about Vince McMahon. Do you guys believe these stories? I hope you didn't mind my Vince impression. It's admittedly poor and it needs kind of working on. But be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.